Roses are red, violets are blue, and all the flowers in that forest grew. See, I have a fundamental problem with this. Aren't violets really more of a purple? So why aren't they called purples? Shouldn't it be purples are blue? Except they're not, they're purples, so purples are purple. You know why no one says that? Because nothing rhymes with purple. In situations as conflicting as these, we have several options. Number one, make signs and protest against the fact that colour isn't even real, it's just refracted light. Number two, sneak out at night and spray paint every violet blue. Number three, admit that there are some facts in life that cannot be altered to fit into the clean-line confines of poetry. Instead, alter ourselves and become more critical of our choices. It may seem trivial in the context of flowers, but in the context of racism, it may just surprise you to learn how many people will keep making the same mistakes, using the same slurs just to avoid messing up their rhymes. We have spent long enough picking apart what race as a social construct means and why racism is unethical, because we're just finding new, more poetic ways to iterate the same messages. Admitting that racism is wrong is not some kind of epiphany you can applaud yourself over. I will not stand here and preach to the converted and then give myself a high five for making a feeble attempt at bettering our society. What I will do instead is attempt to shed some light on a crucial, burning question. What do we do now? In The Half-Blood Prince, as Harry Potter struggles to figure out where Voldemort has hidden his Horcruxes, he is reminded of one simple fact, that dark magic always leaves traces. Racism in Aotearoa has been scattering traces of its dark magic, a trail of breadcrumbs in the hopes that someone, somewhere, will find it and return it to its former glory. First and foremost, do not compare the scale of New Zealand's racism to that of the United States. When our news is bombarded with instances of their race-related police brutality, it is easy to fall back into an ignorance is bliss alternate reality where we find solace in knowing that our problems aren't as apparent as theirs. They say the first step to fixing a problem is admitting that you have one. And our skeletons, our traces, takes the form of biases in the workplace and in the classroom. Every snide remark subconsciously ignored takes us one breadcrumb closer to the gingerbread house of racism and takes us one step backwards from the progress we've made. Now observe the following. Exhibit A. Just last year, Emma Nung, a Kiwi Chinese immigrant, wrote in her autobiography, "Perhaps at some point we will no longer be asked to justify our presence or prove our worth." Exhibit B, a Samoan teen sips his drink at a party while trying to find his best mate, or as he'd rather call him, his nigger. His justifications? He's a fan of Kendrick Lamar, along with, so what, I'm black. If we consciously gave nothing to racism, there would be fewer Emmas who felt the need to earn their place in society. More teenagers would understand that by being excluded from race-specific discrimination, they are automatically excluded from the right to reap that race's benefits. Now compare this with Exhibit C. In a meeting I am in, a man has just made a remark about how a woman, who we all know is of Asian descent, is using a sponsored trip to Japan as an excuse to visit her family. The man sitting opposite him leans in and says, "She is a Malaysian lady of Chinese descent, and if she were to visit home, it would be Perth, because her parents are Australians." That was a light bulb moment for me, where for the first time I saw someone show zero tolerance towards racial unawareness. It was an offhand comment made in casual conversation, yet casual conversation morphs into casual racism when not nipped in the bud. My fellow peers, I now speak directly to you. The millennial Kiwi is inherently inclusive. Exposed to social media, we live in an age of globalization. Our ability to network with others from various walks of life makes us more empathetic and aware. It allows us to see the world from several perspectives. It then makes it more difficult to understand why our older generation seem less inclined. Be it the disputes over the Treaty of Waitangi or the intolerance for immigrants, our elders have been exposed to errors which have made them prone to racist mindsets. The remnants of our ancestors' pride and prejudices linger, but know this: you are not those who came before you. In Black Panther, King T'Challa's suit is made of vibranium, a material that absorbs every ounce of kinetic energy used to attack it and collects it up to exert it when T'Challa fights back. If we as a generation consciously absorb every ounce of bias passed on to us and made certain that we were putting our energy to more noble uses, if we made certain that the cycle ended with us, we will truly become the change New Zealand wishes to see. But don't be quick to write off those who currently exhibit racist mindsets. Keep having difficult conversations with friends and family, because if even one mindset is changed, your efforts were not in vain. It is no longer good enough to say that some people never change, because an old dog doesn't learn new tricks overnight. It takes patience, perseverance, and a stubborn refusal to settle for the status quo, and I have lived here long enough to know that us Kiwis don't settle. Now, we know that unity in diversity is so much more than a slogan. We live by the ideology that can be explained in Hindi as ek aur ek 11 hote hai. When one and one are united, they make 11. What we are capable of as a collective will always be greater than the sum of what we achieve when separated. But integration is a harmonious balance of give and take, a balance that can only be stretched so far. Wearing blackface as a part of your Halloween costume, or a tourist asking for a moku without understanding that these are an expression of Māori identity that lose their value when found on Pākehā. These are aspects of races that are for them only. We understand when these boundaries are crossed. We call it cultural appropriation. In light of realizing what we can do, we must also remember what we cannot. From this day forth, our actions can reflect our ideology if we do the following: admit we have a problem, understand what that problem looks like, stay aware, have difficult conversation, implement inclusion but understand boundaries, and most importantly, know that our voices matter. So, before I leave you, roses are red, violets can be blue, racism can change, and so can you.